Welcome to Tiny Book Club. Yeah, I'm excited about that. We have missed you guys and missed this.
Yes, we have.
This has been like our sanctuary for a long time, and not being able to do it because of COVID was very difficult. But we're happy to be back. Chuck, you're playing. I guess I'm assuming you want me to sing something. We usually open with this song just to loosen things up. So which one do you want me to do? Okay. There's no need to yell. Right. Everyone just calm down. All right. This is a good song because teach me a song, teach me a story, teach me a lesson. The world is definitely in a divided, debatable place right now. So I love that this is happening and that the books are still so relevant. So the idea that reading new things and meeting new people is awesome. And this song is about that. It's called Teach Me a Song. It's beautiful. All right. Teach me a song about love, something that matters. Teach me a song. Don't fill me up with your idle chatter. Don't get me wrong, it don't have to be long, but the words must be strong on the page. 'Cause I'm sick and tired of these colorful lies. In the end, they've got nothing to say. Okay, what do you teach? Give me a song and I'll sing along. Well, show me a heart that's not looking for some kind of answer. Give me a light in the dark, over the glitz and over the glamour. Don't get me wrong, it don't have to be long, but the words must be strong on the page. 'Cause I'm just like you, so in search of a tune that will take some of this pain away. Okay, what do you teach me a song and I'll sing along? You know this part, sing this part with me, because y'all know this song. Go. Don't get me wrong, it don't have to be long. The words must be strong on the page. 'Cause I'm sick and tired of these colorful lies. At the end, they've got nothing to say. Okay, okay. What do you teach me a song and I'll sing along? All right, that's good. That's good. Enough music. You want to come over here?
Yeah, man.
I feel like when I talk show, it's kind of weird.
Something like We Sound Crazy?
Something like We Sound Crazy. All right, so this book, Recitatif by Toni Morrison. Let me just start by saying, in the process of us not doing Tiny Book Club, I knew we'd be coming back at some point. And so every time I read a short book, I was like, okay, let me just put this one to the side. This one will be good when we finally get back. And I read this a couple months ago, kind of thanks to Book Talk. I'm like a TikTok addict now. I talk about books all the time, and I get a lot of great recommendations. And Toni Morrison is no stranger to probably anybody, but I had no idea she wrote a novella. This is the only one she's ever written. She's written, I think, 11 books total and one novella in her entire writing career, and all of them are famous and storied for different reasons. But I read this, and I was so blown away by everything that's happening in this book, everything it makes you feel, and everything that the author's purpose was, that I knew would be a great conversation. And as you know, Tiny Book Club is about doing books under 200 pages. So this is a perfect Tiny Book Club offering. Where to start? First of all, did you love this? Or show of hands if you love this. And show of hands if you were like not crazy about it. I love to see if people are not crazy about it. You weren't crazy about it.
Yeah, I want to hear why you wasn't crazy about it.
You weren't crazy about it either? I'm curious. We'll get to it, but I'm curious to know how the room splits, because every book is not for everybody, right? But starting off at the beginning, I think the first question I have is, do you have an opinion about who's white and who's black?
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion?
Yes.
I want to hear why, though.
That's what Susie would think.
Yeah, I think it's first person. I felt like.
Do we have mics to pass around here as well? Just in case we want to catch some audio, or if you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable with the mic, you can just holler out, but do have mics if you want to. Heather, you want to grab a mic? Go ahead, Heather.
I felt like Twyla was the white character because I heard, and in my experience as a white woman, I heard more ignorance in some of the things that she had said, such as white people tend to create a narrative or rewrite history where they act upon or they didn't do the bad thing. And so she's the one that says first that they didn't kick Maggie, they didn't, and even when she saw them protesting and it felt like there was gentrification happening and they were going to have to bust the children out, she immediately, instead of hearing what her friend had to say, she immediately shot down what they were doing. And I just felt like that was something that white people would do.
Anyone else? Who else wants to give their opinion on who they thought it was?
Oh, I think it's impossible. I think it's impossible to tell from the actual things because,
Right.
like, just when you think you know, that's the beauty of the story.
Yeah.
Like, she's gonna flip it on you, like, oh, that's something black people do. Oh, that's
Right.
something white people do. That's something black people do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's something white people, and it's the same person that she's flipping you on, so that yes, white people do that, but so do black people.
Yeah.
And who does it more often? And we know it's a black and white story because she tells us it's a black and white story.
Right.
So where do we go from there? You know,
I mean, she gives every single detail except for who's
who. But she does. But we'll get to that.
But she does. Anyone else want to share what they thought about that? I'm curious to know.
I did want to say that the reason that I loved it was because, and some of you already know this about me, one of my favorite quotes that sticks with me, and I hear it every day of my life: we are more alike, my friend, than we are unalike.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt that in this book, that there was just so many, white people can be poor. I was having a conversation with somebody talking about how I was poor. I was dirt poor. We didn't have a bathroom until I was in my teenage years, and I'm only 40. But I just felt like there were so many similarities in them because we are more alike than we are unalike. And I feel like if we as a society would recognize that, we could advance a bit more than we have.
The thing about this book is that, okay, some books you read and you know that the author is just wanting you to hopefully pick up on a good story. Like, here's a book that I hope you love, and I worked really hard on the story. And that is an accomplishment within itself. But then when you start dealing with those books where you can tell the author is purposely letting you know, this is an experiment for you. And I'm trying to see what you take out of this. It changes how you read or listen to or experience the book. Because I knew that the thing was kind of to figure out what or to challenge what the races were, you almost there's several brains happening. You're reading the story, you're trying to figure out what the races are, but then you're also trying to bust the author. I'm like she's gonna slip up. There's gonna be something she says that's gonna give this away, and I'm gonna know for sure. And what makes this book so brilliant is that she never slips up. Like, it's ambiguous all the way through it. Like you said, as soon as you think you have it, you realize, wait a minute, but everyone could be poor, and everyone's mom could be a dancer, and everybody's
mom can have a big butt.
Everyone's mom can have a big, and everyone's mom can be like a holy roller with the Bible in her. Like, that's not necessarily, dedicated to one race or one kind of people. Like, I know moms and even down to the names.
Right. Yeah.
Even they're deliberately names that work however you look at it. So then it becomes your own prejudices at play. Mm-hmm. And how you judge things or how you assume things immediately because of what you are hoping to see or what you want the book to be. And that's where I was like, okay, we gotta talk about this because it's a mind bender.
So you're saying Roberta is not a black name and Twyla's not a black name or a white name and Roberta.
Not really.
Right.
Not to me.
Not to me.
They're ambiguous.
They're totally ambiguous. Yeah. If you know a black Roberta, then it's easy to be like, okay, she's black. But if you know a black Twyla, then you're like, okay.
You know a black Twyla?
I do.
I know one.
I do.
Twyla and she's white.
I know both. I know white and black Twylas.
Isn't the artist name Twyla?
Twyla Tharp, right?
No, it's Tyler. Is it Tyler or Twyla?
Not Tyler who sings Water. No, not that Tyler. What were you gonna say?
That don't count.
That don't count.
That don't count.
What were you gonna say, Chuck?
I was about to ask. Besides the experiment on identifying what race it was there any other takeaways from the book?
I think I did. The first time I listened to it, I listened to the LeVar Burton thing, so I didn't get that forward. So I wasn't looking for those clues. I just listened to the story.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I first heard about Twyla, what popped into my head, the picture I saw was a poor Appalachian person who probably was affected by meth or drug addiction. That's what the dancing said to me. And it wasn't particularly trying to figure out black and white. I just saw that. I saw Appalachia. Mm-hmm. And then growing up around here, I was intertwined in a lot of African American gospel church. So it just didn't even. I remember getting to the end and going, "Oh, did I have it wrong?" Because it didn't even question it.
Interesting.
So the second time I listened to it differently. Tried to listen differently, but.
Well, did everyone else read that foreword by Zadie Smith? My critique was that I wish the foreword actually had been after.
That's right.
Yes, me too.
Because it informs. I almost think it informs it too much. It's brilliant, but I wish it had been after you experienced the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's why I
I agree.
Really?
You're correct.
You know what I mean?
I thought the story had started.
Me too.
Really? Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah. You guys are gonna say something over here. Can we pass the mic up here? Real
Yeah.
fast? Oh no, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that the other thing I took away from it was, it doesn't matter whether you're white or black or whatever. As you grow, your perspectives change. And their perspectives changed, and they were able to have, at least at times, some grace for each other.
That kind of like slice of life kind of book where you watch people go through different phases and how they treat each other. Like when they met in the diner, they both kind of had that like youthful, I'm too cool for school, so you're not good enough. And you still, by the way, can't tell that's ambiguous. But then parents, your opinions change, and as you get older, if that was also a whole nother, I'm always blown away by how much information you can get stuffed in a novella, because that's a lot of stuff to have in that smaller book.
Very.
You guys,
Yeah, I was just that it totally changed. It would have changed the way I read it. I did not get the forward.
Gotcha.
And so because it changed, I guess, or didn't change the way I looked at it. It's funny how it didn't really, I was not filling in those gaps. Mm-hmm. Like I was reading it maybe more from a male perspective than anything else, and I was seeing people who do all kinds of shit. That's what they do. That's the life they live. You know what I mean? And it seemed not normal, but normal to me. Right. And why would they put the forward? Like, okay, this is how I think of it. There are two kinds of comics generally. Ones that tell you the point of their joke and ones that don't.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that ruins the story to put a forward like that before.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I thought I was reading a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could have been a lot shorter too. for it.
That could have been unsure. See, I love the forward, but to your point, like it kind of gives away the experiment or the experience.
Right, you're going to intentionally now read it with some type of
Right.
biasy. towards it,
Exactly right. That's
Right.
100% right. Yeah.
Well, who gives a shit about the biases? I mean, you're taught those. You can technically unlearn those, but
Is that
you're
the
going to
intent?
play into those either one of them.
No, I see. I think that's the
But is
fault.
that the intent to?
No, I think that's the fault of the publisher because
Yeah.
Toni Morrison is a legend. The novella was a novella, and a couple of years ago, in republishing it, they added this forward. As now that it's been studied and celebrated, so Zadie Smith is popular now. You get someone popular to talk about it, and it's brilliant. But it should have been after.
It's like I see dead people when in the forward.
right.
Can I say something?
Right.
Can I say something?
Yes,
So
Kelly.
if you read like the original printing, the actual original introduction Toni did herself, and she told you the joke even then, basically. And what she told you is this is an intentional experiment in the exercise of determining your own bias. Because what happens is we all read things, period, in our own voice and with our own experiences brought to it. So we do this even, let's even forget this story. Any other story we have, we already determine, we create an image of what this character looks like and what that character looks like and why they make the decisions that they make. I think that the point was whether Zadie's forward was there or not is open the book, and even if you're not thinking about it, there are assumptions that you're making as you're going through the book, through the story, as you're listening. If for those of us who may not have had time to read, I had to read and then I had to go back and listen because life is crazy. I could have done without the forward. So when I actually sat down and read it, I read it without the introduction initially because I don't like other people's opinions tainting what my experience is, which is why I would even say I don't really have an opinion about whether Twyla or Roberta's black or white. The clues that I picked up on, they might tell me some things, but even what could have been a clue early on, maybe in the first publishing, was no longer a clue. And that's, I think the biggest clue that there could be is the makeup.
Yeah.
That's the biggest clue in this thing, and it still is not adequate to tell you who's who and what's what.
So now that we know, whether we like the intro or not, now that we know that the experiment was to challenge your stereotypes and your biases, how did it make you feel as you were reading it, knowing that, as you were recognizing that your bias was kicking in? Because that was uncomfortable for me, and I personally like being challenged to say like, okay, watch where your brain goes, watch where your stereotypes go. Like, see, you're trying to guess this and you're thinking wrong, you're going on the wrong path. For me, it was discomfort, and also like it made me kind of sit up like, oh shit, like I didn't even think about it that way. I was kind of alarmed at how fast my brain went to assumption on who was the dancer and who would be going to the Jimi Hendrix concert. Like, and I had to like stop and reread it and be like, hold on, like, but that could be a black, that could be a white lady. For me, it was discomfort, but how did it make you feel as you were experiencing it?
It made me feel like that's us right there. But then like it did. Hello. You know, it made me feel like that's us. That's us. I know that's us. And then as now like saying it out loud, why I thought it was us, it's like, I don't want to say why.
Right.
The discomfort has come now that it's time to say it out loud.
Interesting.
But at home I was just chuckling.
What was the first part that made you feel like, yo, that's us?
What did I just say, Charles?
But it's about challenging your inner thoughts, like the things you may not say.
Cause saying it out loud. Cause saying it out loud. It's one thing to chuckle at home by yourself.
But is it because we're in mixed company?
Well, yeah.
But that's the point, right?
That's the point, yeah.
So I think we want to hear your thoughts and views.
I didn't know this was space where there would be peer pressure.
There's no peer pressure. You can share what you
don't
want.
have to.
But I do respect the fact that you said that there was a feeling you felt when you were in the privacy of your home and listening to it alone versus how you would express it in public, because that's what is challenging is your inside verse versus your outside voice.
Well, yeah, because it's
voice.
like sitting around with a bunch of, common looking people, sitting around with your family,
Mhm.
your friends, whatever, and, you laugh at some things.
Right.
You have some common thoughts that you may not say in a mixed crowd. That's all I'm saying.
No, I get it. I'm gonna pass the mic over there. Yeah.
I'll say it out loud. I really thought Roberta was. There's a part where they talk about the hair, and they talk about, and I was like, oh, that's true. Okay, and I'll tell you. So I grew up in Memphis. It's predominantly black. Went to college in Knoxville. It's predominantly white. And one of my best friends to this day that I met in Knoxville is white. And he came to visit me in Nashville. And he was like, why is there no shampoo in your shower? Do you not wash your hair? And so I kind of explained to him the whole oil thing. And I wash my hair probably less than a white person because I have to add oils to my hair. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I did, and not, that my mom is intentionally trying to be any type of way. But I did grow up thinking, which is terrible to say out loud, I will go ahead and preface it, that white people didn't wash their hands, and black people grew up thinking, or white people grew up thinking black people didn't wash their hair, and it was all untrue, all untrue. But after that, I was like, oh, she's definitely black because the white person's mother said, oh, they don't wash their hair, and I've always been really into hair, and in college I would do my white friend's hair, so I've just been into it. I've learned a lot about it, and so I really wholeheartedly thought I could tell who was black and who was white based on the multiple hair comments. But it, again, kind of like you mentioned, coming from a male's perspective, mine coming from a faux hairdresser perspective, it was extremely clear. But as you get older, I end up explaining to him, my shampoo, I have shampoo, it's under the sink, it's not in the shower. So, and and I don't use it every day.
But that's interesting because beyond, and to your point also, beyond just it's black and white, then you start to realize how your experiences, your hobbies, your job also start to affect how you, and even your upbringing. Because mine was the total opposite. Because I grew up in New York in private schools, and I remember when I was a kid, they used to check for lice, right? And all the white kids would get lice.
Oh yeah, I've never heard of lice.
And so I was like, well, they don't wash their hair. And it's a bias that you get because it's also attached to a fear or a thing you don't want or a thing that's looked at as ew. And so then you start to automatically attach people that you've seen get it to things. And so it's interesting that you saw it that way and I saw it the total opposite. And I was totally confused.
How can somebody see it the opposite? Now I understand.
Totally crazy.
So I saw it the opposite because there's one part that says, basically says, Roberta says, I used to curl your hair, and Twyla says, I hated your hands in my hair.
Yep.
So that was just further context clues that I took that Twyla was black and Roberta was white.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't like folks' hands in the hair.
Oh, but when I was growing up, my African American friends used to braid my hair all the time, during gym class, and they had oil.
But that kind of
oil, and so it would make my hair really oily.
But that reinforces the thing because and I've witnessed this too because I grew up around all black people, but I also in certain periods was around nothing but white people, and it seems like when black people are the minority, kind of playing white people's hair because it's different and it doesn't necessarily, and we kind of understand white hair a little bit more than white people understand black hair. So I think that's why it's a thing. So that was one of many clues where I deduced that Twyla is black.
But again, you see the difference. But
your experience. That I deduced she was white. That's funny.
That's
our own experience.
I thought Twyla only said that because they were fighting and she wanted to hurt her friend.
Yeah,
I didn't think it had anything to do with the fact that she
didn't actually hate it. She just said that to be mean.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I am somebody who grew up, as soon as I left my household and went to school, I immediately became friends with black girls. And so I understood their hair. And, from a very early age, I knew the difference and understood what that was and knew that they that black women didn't wash their hair as often as I do. So even those comments had me thinking like, oh, well, it could still be either way. But I really thought that she only said that to be mean.
Did the Jimi Hendrix reference in the story, did that trip y'all up as it relates to this?
No,
It tripped me up.
because I always listen to all kinds of music.
It-
You
it-
talk about
Why
loving
did
your
it trip
own
me up?
experiences.
Because how I experienced Jimi Hendrix was from a musician standpoint. So I study all kind of music, but in my opinion, Jimi Hendrix was more known as a rock star by white people than he was black people. Like when he was playing for like the Isley Brothers and before that,
He was just a
the
player.
sideman guitar player. So when they made the Jimi Hendrix, and then Twyla didn't know who Jimi Hendrix was, that's you know what I'm saying. That's when I thought Twyla was black. So it tripped
Ma'am?
me up a little bit.
So, may I? So, I didn't necessarily think that was indicative, and it might be because, so Jimi Hendrix actually lived a brief stint. He was stationed at Fort Campbell, and y'all know I'm from Clarksville.
Yeah.
And so there are people that I've known that actually interacted and engaged with him there. And so they knew about him before he blew up. And when he blew up, they still claimed him as their own. So I never necessarily just knew him from a perspective as a rock musician that was for white folks.
Yeah,
Like
because
I always
that
kind
shows
of
the-
because he's a rock icon. Like most of us can't even name like 3 or 4 Jimi Hendrix songs. Like we can name Michael Jackson, or like we can name Prince.
No, wait a minute now.
He's like, no, hold on. You know,
I know you can, but that goes
but
to
it
the
also
point.
speaks to Toni Morrison being very meticulous in because she chose the right artist. It's the
right
artist that
definitely the
everyone
right
respects and knows,
That's
but that you
ambiguous still.
Yeah,
ambiguous and almost colorless, but in his greatness. There's so many other artists that you would have been like, oh, come on, like this is clearly. There's not that many artists that you can do that with.
She
so.
was going to an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert. You know, and it'd be different.
You know,
Right.
right? Or it was Elvis. Elvis would make it a lot clearer of you know what the response is. But to the thing about even the hair being thick, like it, my initial feeling was okay. That means she's black. But then I was like, but nope. I know a lot of white girls with thick hair. Like, and that was when I was like, you have to check your bias again, buddy, because thick hair does not mean black. It just means thick hair. That's all it means. And my question is, as they get older now, and they meet again as mothers, that's when I think it really started to escalate into like, especially into what I think is super relevant now, right? Because it was interesting to read this book with what's happening in the world right now, which is essentially a challenge of perception. Like social media is a challenge of, and also playing on how you see things, how you receive things immediately.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get to read the forward, so that
Yeah.
kind of tainted my experience reading it. And that's what I got. I got more that the way perception changed.
Yeah.
Yes, back and forth with all the different little details that you could get caught in, but the fact that some of those details become blurry, they change, and there's so much emotion involved with it at the same time. That's where I leaned towards when I was reading it, going, wow, this feels very relevant.
Very real. You guys feel like it felt relevant to,
Yeah, absolutely.
not only are we witnessing it, but we're also kind of the experiment of it within the times we live in right
Just
now.
lie to me. Just lie to me, Roberta.
Right. You feel like you're being lied to. You feel like you have to spend more time deciphering
You believe it, though.
the truth or your belief or what you're even
Right?
seeing.
Like,
But feel free to touch on that because I'm curious to know how you guys felt about how it relates
Did it
to
challenge
now.
your belief system as it pertained to what's going on currently?
I will say I like Chat GPT'd a very a topic that is currently in the media and said, give me the parallels between that and this book, because I
Okay.
personally felt like
Interesting.
What did
I've
it
seen
say?
so many discussions on social media from all the sides, and my background is very much, I grew up in a very black area, and then I was deposited into a very white area because I've taught in Williamson County. I was the only black person or person of color in my school for years.
Yeah.
And so I've got friends on completely opposite sides. And so I did Chat GPT give me the parallels between the two, because I do see it, you know.
Wait. What did
Well, I'm not going to be
ChatGPT say?
very
What did it say?
specific because I don't want to create
Spill the
divides.
beans.
But I did. I just wanted to know. So, it was interesting. It talks about like you said, like the biases that come toward when something major happens, how you see it versus someone else. And there are some people that I could not understand how they saw it that way. And then in this room with people, to be honest, that look like me, I'm like, how did you not think she was black? And I'm learning. Everybody has their own experiences that shape why they see things the way that they see. So
Right.
it was deep for me. Like I went down a rabbit hole.
Wow.
So the entire time I was always back and forth with it could be either one. I went into that knowing it could be either way. It could be either one. I think for me, one of the things that I thought about was as it's an exercise in determining, like, it's not even so much even necessarily our biases so much as what we predetermine are the things. I think one of the things that I found is there are so many things about this social norm that we think are based upon something that is far more fundamental than it really is. Like this stuff is literally a lot of the things that our belief systems when it comes to that black-white divide is literally based on something that some folks made up.
That's just not even
Right.
It's just
They're not
even-
based in anything that's actually factual. They are that, remembering that culture at the end of the day is a thing that is determined by the people that exist in the moment. And so the things that we think in the moment. So the things that we think are cultural norms, they shift.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there are moments where, this looks like this is the normal culture for me right now. And one of the things I'll say, having attended an HBCU, is when you get into a space like that, where you see all of these black folks from the diasporic black people, from the entire span of what is blackdom, right? You have every single version of what black people are and what black people do, so that you know that we are not a monolith. So in consequence, I read a story like this. I mean, literally went to the same school where Toni Morrison both attended and then taught. You learn that, hey, there are the black nerds that are gonna go to Comic-Con, even though you might grow up in a spot that's like none of them do that. Black people don't do that. Yes, they do. Yes. You also see there are black people that come from extremely privileged black backgrounds. There are the private school black kids.
That was me. Sorry.
And they're the private school black kids that didn't go with a scholarship. They went because their parents could afford it.
Yes.
There are those of us who went
Yes.
to this institution who they had to pay out of pocket because I can't do, if I submit all of my parents' information, I'm disqualified from any loans, any assistance. So my parents have to write a check for me to go to school. Like those sorts of things happen. And if you can see that, if you know the versatility that exists within your own culture, you start to learn, you can't even look at what is black culture and what is white culture and say, well, that's what it is. Because while even with hair, I mean, my daughter has to wash her hair more frequently than I do because her hair is a different texture. And she's not mixed.
Right.
Right. And she's not mixed.
Well, so
and her oil levels are completely different.
So to your point, then it really is. There's so much that is learned behavior and bias, as opposed to the fact that human beings actually are experiencing a lot of the same things, a lot of the same varieties, regardless of race. And then to add a twist to that, there's just how history and pain, because remember, a lot of our beliefs are based off of a trauma and a pain, and you attach a person who hurt you to a negative thing and a person who did you well to a positive thing. I was rereading this in New York City over the weekend, and it was 9/11. And obviously New York does the memorial bigger than anyone because it happened there. And first thing, I was coming to the airport and I didn't have to take my shoes off. And I was like, well, this is nice. And that was kind of because of 9/11. And then I thought about how many biases have come out of 9/11. No matter how you see the tragedy, no matter what side of politically or of war or anything, how many people have suffered because that event alone has made you look at people from different countries differently, how it's created tension in an airport alone, about the bags and your skin color and your attire and your cultural, all that stuff, and how just a historical event can change and affect a story like this, because you're starting to listen to these cues where, well, that means bad. I've been taught that color means bad. Even literally black and white as colors we've been taught in a lot of ways, the dark versus the light, and that has so much to it. And so I was just humbled. Humbled was the word. I was humbled by how much you don't know. I was like, okay, I really don't know anything about people, because it's just a lens I've been looking through. And even though I think my lens is pretty wide, because music allows you to see stuff, I was very much humbled by how wrong you can be and not even realize how wrong you are. And that's to me is a reflection of where we are right now, because everyone is so forceful about being right that you forget how wrong you can be about everybody and everything at any given time, that we don't really know each other that well.
Being right means you have to literally exclude so much evidence and so much around you to be right.
Yeah, man.
Well, to your point, I wanted to say that, speaking about diversity and, how you specifically said Black people are so different and everybody comes from different backgrounds. One thing that has not changed in this country is the racism and the bias that white people constantly carry. And the reason that we can't all get along is because there are people that look like me that refuse to accept those differences and refuse to celebrate them. And that is why I felt like Twyla had a bit of that ignorance in her, and to not recognize certain traumas or things that her friend would have maybe experienced.
Okay, but to say the uncomfortable part out loud, because you're 100% right, but as a Black person reading the book, if I'm keeping it funky in mixed company, Black people have all the exact same biases.
Right, but I wouldn't have that frame of mind.
So as I'm reading, I'm like, but Black people think that way. They have that attitude or that characteristic. The whole time I was like, and that's kind of what Marita was saying about not saying out loud. That saying it out loud is that you want to make it feel like, well, that's the white thing to do. But honestly, what makes it so genius is that I was like, but that really could be anybody.
But was that taught to you by white people?
No.
Was that something that maybe came to your mind because of
behind closed doors in Black culture? Everyone has the same biases. Everyone has, based off of trauma and fears and what you were taught and religion and all those things. But without going, you don't have to go into. Everyone has their own specifics. But I can attest to the fact that I grew up in a Black household, and we are all taught biases, and who not to trust and who to trust and why and what's good for you, what's bad for you. That's just really what it is.
And what's really important is while we are taught those biases, we are also taught to be loyal to them.
Right.
Because you can, you have a roommate, you marry somebody, you work with somebody, things change your mind, but it's that sense of loyalty, being right. You know what I mean?
I remember a different tiny book club, Claude, when you said that growing up in Jamaica, people speak in code, that people, so white people or whoever doesn't understand, but the cultural people who are there know exactly what's being said. And that was designed basically on a bias of fear.
Yeah. I mean, code switching in essence, right?
Right.
Code switching, which is not relegated to Black people. I mean, it's funny because you were talking about Appalachian culture, which is, I've been reading a bunch of books about that, and there's just so many pockets in any country of cultures and codes and slang and things that you use to talk without talking, and that in itself builds bias, and accents in essence start to build bias. Like a Southern accent means something to all. Even, okay, as a person growing up in New York City, there are 100 biases about the South that are 100% not true, but their bias is based off of the history of this country. It's built into the history books because it's always been about the Civil War in the North versus the South, and slavery versus not, and white freedom versus education, and all the things. And you realize that was just put on you, like you said. It was put on you and enforced, and then you end up being loyal to things. But
then there's appropriation, right? Stay woke and like things that belonged to or meant something to one group of people is then adopted by and changed to belong to or mean something to different people. That's what you wanted to say.
Well, yeah, I want to kind of go back to the 9/11 thing because for me, and I know my experience is different. We all have our biases based on, where we've come from. But I remember when I put up Arab American Heritage Month, which is in April, and I was not aware, but like in my head, I was being holier than thou or whatever. And I put it on the screen because as the only Black teacher in my school, if I did Black History Month, I wanted to do women's history and everyone. So I did Arab American history, and I put up, it's Arab American History Month, and my kids, all white, started booing. And I was like, WTF, what's happening here? And they were like, they started 9/11, like all these things. And so I had to basically talk about like celebrities and things that are Arab that the kids didn't even know they were Arab. But then checking my bias, until I met a friend literally 2 years ago that's Palestinian, I didn't know about Arab American Heritage Month either. So I was being like holier in there, like, oh, y'all didn't know it's in April? I also didn't know it was in April 2 years ago. So I don't know, just like listening to what you're saying about HBCUs. Yes, I grew up in an all-Black town, but I went to an all-white school. It's so fun coming somewhere like this and seeing people of different colors with different experiences and people of your same color with different experiences. But like we do, like and I appreciate you saying things like, Twyla probably was ignorant because she didn't know this and she, could live through life not experiencing it. But like we also fail to recognize that as people of color, there are some things we don't notice. And so I did not know anything about Arab history. Now I've learned a lot. But it was because I made a friend that was Arab and very, very culturally aware who educated me. So, I don't know. She's 34. Oh, my class, at that time I was in 4th grade, and it threw me for a loop because I used to teach 1st grade, and they didn't have any opinions in that area. So it threw me for a loop. But yeah, it was 4th grade. I mean, a resounding boo to seeing the name Arab on a screen. I had no idea where to start.
That's like 10, 11-ish.
Yeah.
You didn't get any blowback from parents, did you?
Always.
One of the things I was going to say, so wherever there's something that's very serious that always gives you sort of this diatribe to think about, I also can sometimes think about something very comedic. And, a film that gives you a comedic take kind of on the same thing, even though you see this, is literally The Jerk, right? That movie, the intro to that movie is literally Steve Martin saying, I was born a poor Black child, right? And so you're listening to this and you're looking at it and you're like, this is the most absurd thing ever. But I say that to say, when we're talking about our what we're predisposed, what we've been socialized and conditioned to think and perceive, he blows all of that apart with that line at the top of that movie, and he wrote the movie. But like thinking about, okay, so if I was born a poor Black child, how are my conditions different than a privileged Black child? How are my conditions different than, because there are things where I grew up as a privileged Black child. There are similarities that I do not have with Black people that were poor because of the way that I grew up. So I was automatically, what often happened to me even in school was I was called white girl because it's the most absurd reasons in the world. Okay, absurd reasons. I had a 2-parent household. My daddy went to work. My mother stayed at home. My father had a salary in the 80s that was enough to pay for everything. So I didn't have to have a nanny. My mother woke us up, took us to school every day, picked us up, did our homework. I had 2 parents with college degrees. Like that's not common, especially in the South, right?
Cosby, that's the quote unquote Cosby upbringing.
Right.
Cosby dream.
Correct. Yeah. But that also makes you sometimes in scenarios and situations, other Black people they don't rock with you. Not never, but I got called white girl all the time. She talks like a white girl, right? You get called that because it is literally by no consequence of anything that you've done. It's just you happen to be born into this situation. I think that when we start to analyze that, like all of that stuff comes up too. Like, wait a minute, like not only about my preconceived notions, but is it that I really don't have an opinion about who's Black or who's white? I'm thinking it could go either way because. Right? Like I'm sitting here like, I'm the privileged one, but I had cousins who were poor that called me white.
Yeah. And that's also by your traumas too, because the bullying you get and the names that become sensitive to you, and it could be a physical attribute, it could be a skin color, it could be a you're cool or you're not cool. That also, and who's doing it too. Right. Even your teachers and the ones that are nice to you and the ones that are not nice to you affect how you read things. But let me add a twist to it. They get older and they become mothers. And then you add a whole nother level of intensity, because then you're seeing things through the view of the future or the potential for your children. One is a biological, and one is right, and then everyone's aggression changes, their passion changes, and things that you might let slide for you, you're not letting slide for your kids because maybe you don't want them to have the same experiences or hardship you had. So I just want to go back to that part with both Roberta and Twyla, because that really changed their relationship. To me, the most was the protesting and the what's best for my children and who's getting shipped out. Still can't tell who's who, but regardless of that, I was intrigued by how motherhood or mentorship, because whether it's biological or not, it's just when you are the guardian, how that changes your biases. Because it definitely changed how ferocious they were, how forgiving they were. They definitely weren't listening to each other at that point.
That brings up the talk. The talk that regardless, rich or poor, privileged or poor, Black folks, all of us get the talk from, especially if you got very Black parents, that talk about how you need to behave when you walk out of this house and what you need to do to stay alive.
Can I just ask someone in here who's white? Did you guys get to talk? Did anyone get to talk?
Only as a
I
woman.
have Black kids, so like.
Right.
So
Not as a white person, but as a
you get stopped by a cop, this is what you do.
Right. Yeah.
Got you.
As a girl.
I'm curious, and that was a totally innocent question, because I wanted to make sure that's not a bias. Like, does everyone get to talk, and do you feel like it's just that you're getting it, or?
I don't know what you're talking about.
She didn't get to talk.
No idea what you're talking about. So explain the talk.
Explain it.
Yes.
Yeah, explain it.
So what the talk is and it happens, it's even, we pile it on even more for our sons, for Black men, than we do even for Black women. It is literally hey, so when you go out these doors, you need to know that this is how you conduct yourself. So when you go in the store, don't you ever put your hands in your pocket. If you get pulled over by the police, don't do this, don't do this. It's all of the do not do so that you can stay alive. So yes, there is a talk for women, but even that talk is not the talk that you get as a Black woman. It is, we get the women talk, and we get, hey, if the cops pull you over, you need to make sure that you go to somewhere well lit. You need to make sure that you do this. Now it's added, cut on your camera, do blah, 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 blah. Like, all of these things are added. Make sure that, so even before you go out, hey, do a check. Make sure that all of your headlights and your tail lights, all of those things work. Make sure this drive. My father actually told us, and I have this habit, when I'm driving in my car by myself, my wallet sits in my passenger seat open with my license on it, so that there is never a statement that ever says if something happens to me, it is never she was going for her wallet. No, because it's out there.
See, this is so good, because someone over here said, I don't even know what the talk is, right? Now, when you watch conflict happen in public, right, you see where there are literally several viewpoints of even the understanding of a situation. And that's not to justify any behavior or even to demonize, but in a situation, for example, where you get pulled over by the cops, for me on the road, there is an immediate anxiety as soon as I see the cop colors from afar away.
Before you get pulled over.
Right. And so then you get pulled over. There's how are you reacting when you're under complete stress and anxiety, because you've had the talk and the talk is running in your head, and like it could go this way and that way and that way and this way, and if this happens, that happens, that. That's all computing in your head. And not to justify any side, but then if the cop is white and pulls over, you have no idea the talk even happened. And so you have no idea why the person sitting there is shaking and nervous and stuttering and sweating and crying, and it's all happening, and it's all bias. And by the way, the warnings that any parent gives their kids is usually for for good cause, but you see where the bias, just like the book is saying, affects how your relationships last, if they linger, if you're able to receive information fairly or through the lens of racism that may not be there or very well may be there. But it changes everything.
Yeah, I just realized that I didn't get to talk.
You didn't get to talk?
I didn't get to talk.
Really?
No.
I got you.
You gonna give me to talk now?
We'll talk later. We'll talk later.
No, I
definitely
mean
got to talk.
the things that I learned was from the Christian perspective. It was not necessarily from this is how you conduct yourself as a black guy, or this is what happens when the police pull you over. I had a similar situation where I went to an all black school, but I went to an all white church, and when I grew up, church was more important than school. So I spent more time. Our family was the only black family in the church, so I didn't get the total black experience like that. You know what I'm saying? So my mom, I guess she had a broader view. You know what I'm saying? Like her perspective was from the Christian perspective, so I didn't get to talk.
I didn't get it. So.
I don't think my boyfriend got it either. He's black. He grew up in all white private schools, and he seems to like not have the fear that I have when he goes into spaces. And it's been really interesting navigating that because he didn't get to talk either. He went to all white churches, all white schools, even though he's a black man. So I really think it's how you grew up, and who influenced you, and the words and where you grew up. It's not a color.
Clear, I'd be scared as hell when the police pull me over to I'm not playing about that. I'm scared.
So
It's where
innately know how to act.
Yeah, I know how to act.
So I have 4 sons. My first 3 sons are white. My youngest son is black. He's had the talk. All of them have snuck out when they're in middle school, go toilet paper a neighbor. The only one to get picked up and brought home by police was my black son. And he was with a biracial kid. So we have the talk with him. And I have the talk with my other boys to be respectful, but it is different from my youngest son.
See, we were just taught the talk that I had as a white person and a white woman. Don't talk about what happens in the house. We don't speak poorly about, the family. We only keep that behind closed doors. But as a woman, you have to keep your head up. You can't look down. You have to be on the swivel. Now, I've been in a situation where I was pulled over by a police officer as the driver with a big black man in the passenger seat. And before the cop even got out of the car, he put both of his hands on the dash. And all I was thinking about was, damn, I'm not going to be able to pay this ticket. Right. And that, like, even in that moment, I had a thought of what a difference that was in our experience in that moment.
Because he's probably thinking, oh shit, I'm in the car with a white.
He's a big man. Right. He immediately.
Yes. She is fine. There's no threat. So he probably automatically thought, oh my God, I'm in the car with this white woman. What are they going to think? And what's going to happen?
His talk.
Yeah.
Now, just for a second, because I think that it's so easy to, even when we're having this conversation, to immediately lean to all the danger zones of what you're taught. And I think part of what the message here is also that the low-hanging fruit is always the scary stuff, the fear, the worst case scenario, and they exist. So it's not to say that you're not to say that you're delusional to have those concerns. But I always say this about myself, especially in this country, right, where I think it's become even more popular now than ever to debate until your literally your face falls off, just talk and talk and talk, is that technically, and this is in all 50 states, the majority of our time is lovely, meaning that if we all hate each other to the degree that we pretend we do, it would be complete chaos. Like, it would be conflict and rioting and violence. It would be the zombie apocalypse that we're all actually afraid of. And so the percentage, I don't know what the actual number is, but the percentage is that actually we're choosing to see the better of the biases in people so as to shop in grocery stores and to coexist and have neighbors and all that stuff. And I'm from New York, so a lot of it is you're in a melting pot where that makes that the case. But I now live in Tennessee, and it's still the case. Like, actually, my experiences here have been mostly pleasant, far more than, and by the way, far more pleasant here than in places that you would assume are a lot more liberal and friendly. Like, I've had far more awful experiences in New York and California than I've had in Tennessee. So
Me too.
It makes you wonder how vulnerable we are to the low-hanging fruit, especially as it pertains to the news and social media, especially today, and how easy it is to get sucked into this vacuum of negativity when actually we're probably prejudging, misjudging, and over kind of making a bigger deal of the drama. Not to say that things are not happening, things aren't awful, and we shouldn't be concerned, but the book just stood as a reminder to me that you're probably getting some of this wrong.
That there are gray areas.
There's so many gray areas, and so that grace has to be a factor at all. Grace has to be a factor because you don't know what you don't know. Did anyone else feel that way? Because as we literally watch the country continue to debate about all the things, I was like, man, like it's so easy to get it wrong. And this book is reminding you that you can be getting it wrong at all
Be
times.
influenced to not really make up your mind or have your own thoughts, but to hear other thoughts and be like, okay, I could agree with that. That goes along with what I think might be okay. And then so you're more easily influenced today, I think, than we would have been in Toni's time.
What that? Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What that reminds me of is we've had some friends and family members who've taken adventures that make them vulnerable. Things like walk across the country, for example. And one of the common themes that we've heard from people who've done that is most people want to help you.
Yeah.
You know, old, young, white, black, rich, poor, most people want to help, you know? And so that I think that speaks to what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Do most of y'all agree that most people are helpful?
Yeah.
I think it has to do with where you grew up, like what region you're in, you know, your upbringing is, it's all biases, it's all based on trauma. So growing up on the south side of Chicago, not everybody wants to help you.
Yeah.
Growing up in larger cities where there's a lot more, you know, racism, like a racial divide, you will see that people tend to help those who look like them. And that's in every culture. That's white culture, that's Latino culture, that's black culture. They tend to stick to what they know to be safe. And so if you're in a space where you are, I mean, it isn't just, it is skin color, but it's also other things, because if you're a little different, prime example, I was a swimmer as a kid. Most white people in rural America don't think black people can swim. And so it becomes like, what are you? And so you're kind of othered, and there's groups that they fear what they don't understand. So then that's where the negative aspect comes from. But then there are people who seek to understand, and those are the ones that tend to want to help. So my experience, again, all of our experiences are different. My experience may be a little tainted due to, you know, my upbringing, but just in living life and seeing all different spectrums, I would say for the most part, we do have a good experience with other people. But then when it comes to times of, you know, intensity, or if they're, you know, when it's like fight or flight, that's when people's biases are heightened.
I agree with that.
I was going to say, to take this out of like the race thing and to pull it on, I think I saw like one of those social experiments. You know how ABC 2020 used to do those social experiments or whatever.
What would you do?
Yeah, but this wasn't one of those, I don't think, but it might have been. Saw a video a while back, and they were literally talking about the nice versus kind. And one of the things that you're kind of taught, just, you know, socially, being a kid from the South, about Northerners, particularly NYC Northerners, is they're rude, they're yada, yada, yada. Like, you're kind of taught that, you know, from movies and blah, 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 blah. And this study that they kind of did, they were like, okay, so what we found is they literally didn't even do it north-south. They said East Coast folks versus West Coast folks. And what they were talking about was, they said even East Coast when you go down south, so the eastern part of the country. They were like, so they found that even though they said even with the South, and, you know, people not wanting to fool with the South because of racism, yada, 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 they were like, so they said the Eastern people tend to be kinder. So they may not necessarily say the nicest things to you, but they actually do the most helpful things. And Western side of the United States, they'll do the nice thing, but not the kind thing. And the example that they use is, over here on this side of the country, we are more inclined to see you abandoned on the side of the road and stop to ask you, pull up beside you. Are you okay? Do you need me to call somebody? Blase, blase, blah. That's New York. That's from the top down all the way through on the
Down
east
to
side. We are
Florida.
far more inclined to do that, right? And they said when you get out west, that is not the tendency.
Interesting.
And they were like, so even our like just regional biases about, they're more free going in Cali and in Washington State and the Pacific Northwest and all that. Yeah, but they're not inclined to pull over to the side of the road and help you. They're more inclined to go
Interesting.
past you.
Good.
I think it has to do with a lot of things. I think it has to do with safety concerns and all of those things. But I also think that you happen to, it's also the luck of the draw on who you talk to that day.
I was gonna say that the other thing that was interesting about this book that Toni, she packed a lot of different themes into this thing, but we were talking about this, about the fact that you also watch them grow old and keep on running to each other, and how the memory changes your perception of, like, by the end the last line is that they just could not remember whether Maggie was white or black, or whether they bullied her or kicked her. Like, all of that became a blur. And so, and I'm just gonna ask, what did that mean to you guys? Because there's what's happening in the now, and then also how you remember things that changes how you parent your children, how you see people later on in life, because they had a totally different perception.
History belongs to the one telling the story.
That's bars.
That was how I felt about white people tend to, and we're watching it happen right now, where white people rewrite history. That didn't happen that way. This is how it happened, to create the narrative and change things. So it's, is it a memory? Is it a memory versus, well, I don't want to throw a negative shadow on my people. And so that was where I felt a little bit of that ignorance, or where she was trying to create the narrative and change the story.
But do you think all people do that, or just white people?
I think so, yes.
I think all people do
right.
that, yeah.
It's a self-preservation
Yes.
thing, right?
Yes.
Whether it's white or black.
It's definitely an all people thing. Good.
I can think of this kid in band camp that just annoyed me like crazy. I was like, just go away. I had said, just go away. And I mean, I didn't kick him or anything, but later as an adult, I'm like, well, that wasn't very nice. You know what I mean? Like I can, my perspective has changed such that I see, I see in my kids, what if that was them and someone was saying, just go away. And so I think I saw that in the book a little bit, where they're going, yeah, I thought that. And I think that's probably a lot of us can. I mean, I hope I'm not the only one who did something that I feel bad about.
And also, and even more often, the opposite is that
yeah.
you revised your own history to make yourself maybe not as mean as you were, or not as harsh as you were. It's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I said it, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, we say your mother?
Well, my mom tells a story. I remember the only fight that I ever got in, I remember being verbally aggressive with the girl. And in my mind, I started walking towards her. She walked away. It was over. And my mom, as I'm telling this story to somebody, speaks up from across the room and says, bullshit, you chased her down the hallway and beat her ass, and I had to sit in the office with you all day. I don't remember that. You don't? I don't. But it is accurate, because my mother remembers having to come to the school, having to sit in the office, having to have all of these conversations, but I don't remember putting my hands on this girl. I think I did. Yeah, I think that. Exactly. So, I created my own narrative.
You beat her ass and it was traumatic for you. Nice.
Well, because as you know me, exactly, you know me, you know that I would not fight with someone, or that I would not. But I remember that she was upset because she thought that I called her sister gay and that I was being mean to her because she was gay. You know that I'm not going to do that. Even as a young person, I would have never looked at someone and been mean to them because of their difference to me. Apparently.
I mean, because you beat her up because she kept insisting that you did something that
she threatened my character.
That's it.
Yeah. Right.
So you were fighting for your own camera.
I want to hear some what Beth has to say. Yeah. I don't remember, but that even to my point where I created that narrative for myself.
I mean, technically, we're all revising history. I mean, part of the reason we debate so much is that if you're continuing to read and you're continuing to challenge the facts, you're always uncovering how the news, journalism, books, art, gossip is all of it is a form of storytelling and passing the word on. And it's like telephone. That's why the game telephone is both a fun game and a lesson. And when you're kids, you're like, look how fast the message changes. From me, if I whisper to you, by the time it gets over back to Chuck, it's a totally different message with lots of things that have affected that, like people's personalities, their accents, what you heard, what you didn't hear, what you want to be told next. And I think that's kind of what Toni Morrison is trying to say. She's not here to say it for herself, but I'm curious to know from you guys what you think her ultimate purpose for the book was, because the race is a part of it, but there's so much more to it that if you could speak through her right now, what do you think would be the ultimate purpose of Recitatif?
She's talking about humans and complexity that most of us cannot, she layers things and nuances things, but what she's looking at is the whole package. And to me, what she's always, this is an expression, I hope it's not offensive, called a spade a spade. And I think that there's so many different things that are beyond our control, beyond our circumstances, that are just human. It's like the memory thing. Today we have gaslighting and ghosting, and people trying to tell you, I didn't say that, or you're like, yes, you did. And they will create a whole thing to make you look bad or whatever. I think that's gone on forever, but I think Toni has always poked holes in things. You could call her the Swiss cheese queen. Because she thinks on multi-levels. And I think she's so intuitive about people, about issues, about feelings, and emotion that she kind of throws it all in the cement mixer and says, okay, I think I'm going to look at this. Yeah. And I think I'll look at this. And, what do you think? Yeah. She keeps you on your toes.
Definitely.
Anybody else?
To say it also makes you think about distraction, right? Because the whole who is white, who's black, it's important, but it also takes away from, I think, the bigger message. And I was thinking about, I don't know if anyone saw that movie, Anatomy of a Fall. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you want to know, did she do it? Well, really, it doesn't matter if she did it, right? And that's the thing with this. It's, where we are right now and what's going on and who's who. I mean, it doesn't matter which one's white or which is black. We've got a big problem. And we, that's what it's uncovering. And so I love the way she crafted it, but I think it's also trying to get you to think beyond that, too.
Yes. 100% agree with that.
Had it not been said salt and pepper and it was a black and white thing, there was even a moment where I did think, oh, this could even be a dark-skinned black person versus a light-skinned. So I even saw that, to your point from earlier.
And to that point, that's what I would say. Like, how I pick it apart from an academia kind of literary thing, right? So like you go, like traditionally in literature, when you're doing classic stories and you write the name Aurora, if you name the character Aurora, you're trying to say that the person is mixed, right? So like in Jane Fenimore Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans, the character that he's fighting for is Aurora. Interesting. And she's mixed. You know what I mean? That's the whole point, and that's why they won't accept her, is because she's mixed, and they fight a war over this lady, right? So there's tons of things like that I did my dissertation on and stuff. But but Twyla is one of those names because it's short for twilight, aurora, in between dawn and dusk.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So and then Roberta means light or bright.
Oh, wow. Toni Morrison leaves no stone unturned.
How about this one?
Deliberate.
What's your name? Big Bozo?
Yes.
Big Bozo. What was her actual name?
I don't know. I don't remember.
First name me, last name Moses.
See, I have it written down. It was Itkin. This is Itkin. But we called her Big Bozo. Remember that? Yeah. That line? Itkin is a diminutive of Judith, which is Yiddish. And so you have the three things. You have a Jewish person, you have a mixed black and white person, and you have a lighter Bible, which is for a person of a Bible kind of thing, Ham, Shem, Japheth, all of which means dark, light, and bright, and dusky, or Semite, Shem, It's like, so what are you saying? I don't know, but I know I know she did it on purpose, because it can't be like not on purpose.
It's all there. It was never, like to your point, it was never for you to choose, but watch how you're going to force yourself to be uncomfortable and try to choose.
Yeah. Right.
And what does that say about you? And you sit in that.
Right.
You sit in how you saw this, and then read again and see if it changes every time you read it, and also read again after you talk to people.
Right.
And
I
see
think
how you feel.
I think the curveball that she's throwing for real though is that they're mixed, and like now throw out everything you have about black and white,
right?
Strict black and white,
right?
And now it's like you're not white enough or you're not black enough. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And now you have a whole nother set of assumptions and like biases that go with it, right?
Right. There's layers and layers and layers.
They couldn't even remember what color Maggie was. They couldn't agree on whether she was black or white.
Right. Maggie, Margaret, Pearl. Margaret means pearl, right? Pearl.
Pearl is, yeah. But to your point, when I was literally reading, I said, why aren't they both black? I said they could both be black. They can both be this. And the reason why my thoughts were that was like, this is such a, so that's when I started reading, I read the initial descriptions. I said, I'm not going to make a choice because this could go either way. Both could honestly be passing as something that they're not, that they're absolutely neither of them.
But she says specifically that they're black and white.
Right, and that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
But even then, that is, black. Well, not even perception. It's that's a social construct that serves a political function in all truth.
Which makes me wonder: is she also saying that the construct of race is a distraction?
Yes, from humanity.
Right, and used by quote unquote powers that be to literally formulate how you move, think, remain divided as opposed to unified, because you can always opt to not accept it.
And now we're back to the Ford that some of
and
us
now
don't
we're back
like.
to the Zadie Smith.
Well, I
Ford.
say because Zadie actually says that, and what she does to kind of prove sort of her position that she has in it about what her thoughts are on it is she actually pulls from Toni's essays, from the essays of other authors and writers that Toni respected and Toni worked with, where ultimately that's really the point. Yeah. The point is for you to understand that for as much as it matters, it doesn't, but it does. Right. Like there's that confusion, like it doesn't matter, but it does matter, but it doesn't, but it does. Because, and the reason why I say it that way is because at the end of the day, there are some things that we hold on to because it is what unites a particular community. Mm-hmm. It is what unites a particular set of, there's a particular way that you organize and that you develop and create a set of unspoken rules that create a culture and that create a community. You do not want to deny the existence of that community once it becomes a thing. So that's why I say it does matter. But it doesn't, because fundamentally, at the end of the day, your individual, if I pull you out of context just to give your life story, it does not matter, because your story as a black woman, there could very well be a white man who has a similar story.
Yeah. I also wonder how this book would be translated. Like, for example, my mother is from Jamaica, where culturally black and white are not a thing you're taught. It's colorism, it's class, there's different divides. But then how you read a book like this, like you said, if you didn't read the forward and you were not given that clue at all, then at that point, how would you translate it? Right. Because American culture in itself, in every way, is from the beginning of education is designed to teach you Hatfields versus McCoys. It's always just this versus this versus that.
I was just gonna say, I think hatred exists in a binary, right? If it's either one or the other. And
Yeah.
so again, you look at the climate right now, we're back to the binary. And that's why everyone's so divided, and it's never that simple. And that's what this gets at in some ways, is that, you know, there is no black or white. It's not that way, but it's so easy to put that layer on and have people, like right now, you're this or that. And that's, I think, where the hatred can come from.
Do you think there's a do anybody think there's a remedy for it? Do you think we're always gonna to have to deal with race as a primary issue, or do you think one day we'll be able to get past it? Not past it in totality, but past it enough to where we can see humanity first.
Not in this, especially not after the last week or so.
How big does it have to be to satisfy your question? Like, how big does the room have to be?
I don't know. I just you know, because like I'm watching the news and my thought is that when will it come to a point where we can see the humanness in people? Because that's what brings us together. There's so many things that can separate us. Like, and it don't even have to be a race thing. Like, even among Black people, we have different perspectives because we were raised different. So it's hard to make come to a real conclusion when you're using something like race. And so I'm always wondering, how can we get to the point where we can see humanity first in people? And I'm wondering if I'm the only one wondering that.
I would love for it to be that easy, but unfortunately in this country, dividing groups is profitable. And so unfortunately, as long as keeping people in boxes and robbing Peter to pay Paul is profitable, confusion is always gonna thing. But I think it's more intense in the U.S.
and Palestine and everything.
Things are still so close too, generation wise. Like my cousin was, I want my grandma's cousin. She was Aubrey Lucy. My cousin of mine, my grandma's cousin is Authy Lucy, and she was was the first Black student at University of Alabama. That's really close. It's kind of hard to think that someone who, like for me, my parents' generation, if you guys heard of 16th Street Baptist Church and how the 4 little girls, like that was next to my granddaddy's church. My Uncle Otis went over and pulled people out of the church. That's my parents' generation. It's not going anywhere so long as people are still alive from that generation, still passing down stuff. Like it's direct still.
I think one of the most powerful lines in the book for me was when they were picketing, and she says, "My sign doesn't make any sense without her sign." Right?
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think, and I don't know the answer to your question, Claude. I mean, Chuck. But I think that might be the answer to the question. If we could, if there was ever a way to figure out that, I'm making this sign because I'm reacting to some other sign, and it's really, in your face about that other sign. It's not actually about what I think, And there are situations that I'm in where I'm like,
no one else got
I want to
No one else
react.
even understood the sign, by the way. Everyone else is like, I have no idea what your sign means. At
Yeah.
all.
And there are times where I want to play off somebody. I had, like a situation, and I want to play off somebody, and I'm like, oh, but wait, that's not who I want to be. So I have to think about not how I want to react to that, but like who I actually want to be, whether or not that person's, you know what I mean?
That
Like,
is-
like forget the sign.
Not creating the sign itself is also an option. Peace is an option as well, and I think that's also overlooked, is that you can also, for the betterment of your own peace and for the people around you and for community, choose when and how to speak, and that's a lost art as well in the process. That thing with the sign is what I think speaks the most to where we are right now. It's so huge because it speaks to, like, you always stopping to question what you're doing this for. And are you really for the cause, or are you for just being right or being heard? Or are you on a side at all? And that's a lot of what I think gets is getting lost in the noise, is that the entire purpose, whatever the purpose is, gets totally skewed in the process of everyone's theses and noise and dissertations and clapbacks and curses and insults, which means that we're not communicating. We're not actually communicating at all. We're just making a lot of noise. That's not music. That's not harmony.
It's not me.
It's not you. You gonna say something?
No.
That's part of my fear of, I have to really think before I speak. I have to determine, am I being influenced here? Is this an original thought? Or am I just going to go with what my friends say? Right? And so that was really interesting to me, because they were mothers at that point where they were creating the signs. And I think there's even one of her sons puts it on his wall or something like that. But yeah, to your point, that I have to really think, is this my original thought based on my experiences, based on the things that I know to be true, or am I being influenced here and just deciding what I'm going to believe or say?
I kind of liked that one of the signs ended up for fish guts. It's like, there's all this, and then, the world moves on,
The world moves on. The only thing I know for sure, and this is why I love Tiny Book Club, and I'm really grateful that we were able to get it back going, is that I'm paraphrasing that, saying that, like, if you want to keep the truth in people, then put it in a book, because folks don't read. This is, I think, the beginning of, or an example of how you get to some of that solution you're talking about, is that every time I read, whether I love the book or I hate the book, you learn something about, you get to walk in someone else's shoes. And you get to walk in the shoes of either characters they create, or at least the author who created it, because there is a mastermind behind a story that comes from a world of experiences. This book in particular, but in general, I find that you're able to be a lot more humble and empathetic to people's circumstances the more books you read and the more you share books, because it just teaches you that, like, in her case, there are people that can almost remove themselves from society, take a bird's eye view, and write fairly enough about the whole thing to have a point of view that's not biased in itself, which means that we're capable of being fair, which means that there are people out there that are capable of seeing things without being skewed, or like it'd be so easy for Toni Morrison, the Black woman, who whatever she experienced, to put all the things that she wants to put in the book to let you know, like, oh, this is why my experience is better. But even with all that experience that you can assume she would have had, and she said she had, she's able to say, okay, but despite that, when I sit down at the typewriter or the computer, I'm wise enough and I've done enough homework that I can sit down and write this thing for everybody to see themselves in. That's meant for us to come together, as opposed to choosing her own low-hanging fruit, which would have been her trauma and her pain. And that gives me a lot of hope, because that means that there's people that get it, that it's more than just the biases that we have. And so the reading for me has become its own kind of religion for me, because it reminds you, even when religion is telling you to take sides and be about tribalism, that just walking in other people's shoes will teach you enough of a lesson to be kinder and to be more open-minded and more empathetic.
I'm curious, in this room especially, are there, in Toni Morrison and other authors like her were able to write non-biased, what white authors might you suggest or know that would be able to write like that? I remember, and I can't remember if it was Toni or a different author, I know it was a Black woman who was asked by a white interviewer, why don't you put more white people in your stories? And the answer was, because I'm a Black woman. Like, I write about what I know. So I'm just curious to know, and would like to read white people who can write that way.
Read Horse.
Horse is a great book.
I'm not a white person. I'm good.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Geraldine Brooks.
Yeah. So who?
Geraldine Brooks.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'm going to tell you something about that as well, is that throughout especially the last couple of years, I've kind of switched my perspective on that, because I think it's popular now to almost want to force people to be all-inclusive in their everything, in their writing. But the reason why I'm kind of against it now is that also forces people to be inauthentic. And for you to actually understand how things were or are, how people really think, you have to allow people to be brutally honest. Like this year, I've been reading a lot of Stephen King. He's written a lot of books, and he's evolved a lot in his writing. And there's books he wrote in the late 70s and early 80s that are extremely racist, but he's writing them because that was his perspective growing up in the Northeast, in Maine, and Portland, and New Hampshire. And so even though you would like to like go back and say, hey, that was wrong, and I wish you had not said the N-word, and I wish you had included more Black people, it at least tells you what honestly what the culture was. Now, does it stay that way? Maybe, maybe not. Do people change? Maybe, maybe not. But you're at least able to see that there is a bias here, just like the bias I have in my community. Which is why when we talk about this book, I can recognize that, oh wait, Black people think that way and white people think that way. I've seen examples. Doesn't make it right, no, but the bias is equal in that everyone is biasing in their own way. So I like the books where people are able to do this, but I also like the books where people just tell me this is the slice of life, this is how it went. And it might be rough for you to experience, but this is how it is, so that you can know that the hatred exists, or that the love exists, or that there were exceptions to the rule in every situation. So I'm purposely putting myself now in situations where I read things that are uncomfortable, even though words are going to offend me, but I need to know how you were thinking. And I want you to tell me exactly what was going on in your mind. And then like with Stephen King, for example, you watch him evolve. You watch him change his understanding as the world happens too, as he has kids, and so you get to see how a person can change from the neighborhood they grew up into and through success and failures. So there are many examples of people that do this, but I think also don't be afraid to dig into the artists and the songs and the authors and things that are just telling you here's how life was. That's part of the reason why people gatekeep the way they do. Even though it seems like it's you stay out, there's a gatekeeping because I'm like, no, but we're also telling you exactly how it was. I've learned that about my feelings about country music and the fight about who can be in and who can be out. But there are people that feel like, but I want to tell my story the way I did, and this is how I've been used to telling it. I'm not judging, but it's also something to learn from that unique story. So
that's where a lot of my thought processes came from, was seeking out people who had different experiences than I do.
I mean, that's by walking in someone else's shoes. You start to realize that a lot of it is the same stuff. It's everyone's trying to protect their family and find something to eat and create a legacy. Humans' concerns are very much the same from the time they're born to the time they die. It's very much a unified concern, and it's the basic needs of life. And it's easy to get distracted by the things that are a little bit more ethereal and kind of like mental, but we all kind of want the same stuff, and it's what's scary is how easily we forget that. With all the noise, but in the end, I feel like you end with empathy, right? Like you end with in a book like this. That was my takeaway. Was that your guys' takeaway, that there's like some understanding to be had for other people, or no? Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Does anybody know why she chose the title that she did?
You know what?
That was in the foreword.
That was the foreword that we hate. She did say it. Now, everyone do their homework right now.
Do you know? I don't know. I feel like
Recitatif as an opera is the storytelling.
Yeah, yeah.
You're reciting the story.
Yeah.
That's the operatic term, right?
Yeah,
It's-
that's
it's-
why she chose it.
Go ahead, say it.
She chose it because of what the actual meaning of the word is. Like, this is just the story.
Got you.
This is the brief story of what happened.
So even
That's
that
the reason
gives,
why.
even that is a generalization on
It's
purpose.
general. Yeah. Right. Like, I'm just giving you the snapshots of what these two lives, these parallel lives look like. And anything else that you add into it, that's you reading into it something that's not there.
That in
So,
itself is
so what does the musical term recitative mean? She said that too, right?
the story.
The story.
It's a musical term. Here you go.
It's like what?
Like a libretto. Because it's like, like in the libretto is just the story, but like in an opera, it's a cadence where they sing where it's actual dialogue.
Mhm.
So it's a narrative dialogue that's sung. Okay. So it's in a cadence where you can understand the dialogue.
Which in itself is brilliant because even titles in the titles also, like had it been called Boys in the Hood, you would have thought something totally different. You know, you'd be like, okay.
You want me to give you the actual definition?
Yes, please.
The actual definition is recitatif or recitative refers to a style of singing in opera and other vocal music that mimics the rhythm and speech, like cadence of ordinary conversation, rather than a strict melodic tune. So even in a musical, you know how you get those moments in like a Broadway musical where
In Hamilton,
where it's a conversation and it's going back and forth, but it's rhythmic and it's melodic, but you know it's just a general. It would normally be a spoken conversation. That's what that is. Okay. And she's letting you know this is just a conversation. This is just the story that's happening.
Brilliant. Last question as we
Is that the same thing you can do? I can do better. Would that be the same?
Conversation, yes. No, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, you can. Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Last question. This is literally just to see if this was effective. Would you refer this book to a friend?
Already have. Yeah.
Already have? So that's the point of Tiny Book Club, is that they're short books, so no one is really intimidated by them. The book is the ticket. Meaning that, like, if you had a great time here tonight and you would pass on to someone else, please refer this book to someone else that you think could use it and learn from it and could have a great conversation with it, and then invite that person or people to Tiny Book Club next time. That's how you pay it forward and how we multiply the conversation and keep it diverse. I would definitely refer this to a bunch of people. Would you, Chuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is there anything we forgot? Anyone that didn't share that wanted to? Just making sure that everyone feels included and loved in our little group here. I want to thank you guys. Chuck and I want to thank you for coming to our new inaugural Tiny Book Club in person. We're going to be doing them frequently as we did before. It's been a long time. Shouldn't have left you without a dope book to step to. And we're also always taking recommendations for books under 200 pages that you think would be great conversation pieces, essays, poems, short stories. All of that stuff is fair game. But this was a great conversation. I learned a lot. I thought, you fucking think I have it all figured out, and then people start talking, and you're like, oh wait, right? Every single time. So thank you so much for being open and honest and giving of your thoughts and of your heart. We'll see you at the next one.
Yep.
Yeah, right.